everybody, and welcome to the third episode of A Shade of Pink Africa. And in this particular episode, I'm going to be talking about mental health issues, which are kind of like sensitive subjects. But I'll be right back. We'll talk about it soon. Welcome back. And in this particular episode, I want to talk about mental health. And whereas it's quite a complex discussion, and I just want to touch on a few things that I learned over the last couple of years about mental health. And I think it is very, very pertinent, especially in these times that there's COVID and the world is upside down and people are losing their jobs and people are really, really struggling. I mean, this time is really, really, really tough. And I remember that when I was diagnosed with cancer, I remember I'd lost my mother 6 months earlier. I was really, really angry. And I found myself sinking into this dark place that I was really, really unhappy. And it's now looking back that I realized that I was actually depressed. And you may be asking yourself, okay, how do you know if you're depressed or not? And one of the signs of depression that is very, very important is you start to withdraw. You find that things that used to make you happy, you're not interested in them anymore. You find that getting out of bed becomes a real pain in the ass. I mean, it really becomes tedious. You find that people being happy around you is so annoying and so irritating. And you suddenly just, nothing seems worth it anymore. And you find that instead of focusing on positive things, you actually want to make yourself feel bad. Anything that is positive around you actually find yourself pushing it away. And there comes a point in time whereby you just don't want to live anymore. And it's so important that when you're starting to find yourself struggling with life, that you talk about it, that you share with somebody. In recent times, in the last couple of years, I've lost friends to suicide. And you sit down and think, oh, but how can life be so bad that somebody will actually take their own life? It is, when you get into that dark space, you actually don't see any way out. There's no logic in mental health. You can sit down and say, oh, but I mean, what's the big deal? They only had cancer. They only just lost their husband. I mean, what's the big deal? Life goes on and all that kind of stuff. And that's the challenge, is that when you've gone through trauma, everybody and everything else goes back to normal. Life continues without you. You expect, or you lose a loved one and you're still mourning. People expect you to get on with your life. Your heart is still breaking. You're still in that zone and everything goes on, and that can throw you into depression. And it's so important that we really start talking about mental health issues. Mental health is everywhere. People say when you talk about mental health, it means that you're mad. No, it does not. What is mental health? Mental health is your state of mind. And mental health starts with what goes into your mind, what happens in your mind, what you feed your mind with. Let's face it, you wake up in the morning, you put on the news. The news is nothing but doom and gloom and misery. I'm not saying don't be current. I'm saying that what you feed yourself with is ultimately what you become. There's a verse in the Bible that says, be it unto you according to your faith. And some people say, you are what you think. There's also this saying that what you think becomes what you speak becomes what you do, and what you do becomes who you are. So whether we like it or not, we cannot move the importance of having a healthy mind and actually starting to think differently. It's not easy to suddenly start thinking differently, but you need to start focusing on positive things. You can imagine that you want to become something, and then all you do is hang around people who are telling you how it's not possible, how life is negative and how nobody's ever done it, and that is all you're filling your mind with, that is all you're surrounding yourself with, and you want to progress. It's not going to happen. Have you ever gone to a place, if you go to a function or go into a social gathering, you'll find that people who are miserable stay with the people that are miserable. People that are happy stay with the ones that are happy. People that progress are the ones that stick with progressive people. That's the way life is. You cannot surround yourself with negativity and negative people, and then you wonder why you're not progressing. You can't sit down there and hold on to your past with all your might and keep focusing, and all your mind is about everything you've lost and you want to move forward. You cannot. It has to start from here. You have to tune your mind to be positive, and even when you're not feeling it. That's the funny thing about positivity. When you start to think and surround yourself with positive things, with happy things, your mood changes. It may, when you find you wake up in the morning and you're feeling miserable, switch off the TV, put on some happy music. You see some people, very often on Instagram, you find somebody, they'll be playing music and jumping up and down. You're sitting and they go, oh, what's that person's problem? But they've realized that they need to bombard themselves with positive things to boost themselves up. The mind requires a boost. The mind requires food. That is the reality. What are you feeding your mind with? Are you feeding your mind with everything people tell you that you're never going to be? Are you feeding your mind with how people are talking about how cancer is going to be something that's going to kill you, and that's where you're focusing? Or are you focusing your mind on the few people who are coming out and saying, look, it didn't get me. I had cancer, but cancer never had me. That's a common thing that people say. Cancer is not a death sentence. What do you believe? It's what you believe that is what you're going to become. So we cannot just push aside things and say that depression is for the weak, that being depression means that you're weak. It is not. We're living in a world that is so demanding. We're living in a world that there's so many pressures and so many people trying to tell us how we should be and determining if we're succeeding, determining if we're failing, all those kind of things. It is so important that we stop listening to that voice that is telling us that we will never succeed, that we aren't good enough, and focus on things that tell us that we are good enough, that we are going to be prosperous, we are going to be healthy, and all those kind of things. So it's important that we look out for signs of depression in ourselves and people that we love, because it's everywhere. It's important that we actually start to tune our minds, focus ourselves on positive, and start to cut off the negative influences. Sometimes it means breaking off relationships that are making you miserable. Sometimes it involves cutting off friends that are negative. Sometimes you must stop going to certain places because it's affecting your mind. Your mind is such a fine-tuned machine. We know for a fact that survivorship, a very big role of it is in your brain. Doctors will tell you that 50% of survivorship is what you yourself believe. The mind is such a powerful tool. You have cases where they have people everybody's being given just normal drips. For half the audience, they tell them it's the most powerful chemotherapy drug. Everybody who takes it vomits. And everybody starts vomiting because it's what they've come to believe. So it's so important that we find something positive to hold on to. For me, it was my faith. I don't know what I would have become if not for the fact that I believe that there is a God and there is some sort of reason that I'm going through what I'm going through. It doesn't have to be religion for you. For me, it was my faith. I don't know where I would have been if I didn't believe that there was an end game. If I didn't believe that there was a purpose for my existence. If I didn't believe there was a reason I was going through what I'm going through. So, just to recap, depression is real. It is so real, and we need to start looking out for the signs that something is going wrong. The man who jumped off the bridge many years ago, several have jumped off. It didn't happen overnight. There were signs. They were starting to withdraw. They were starting to stay away from things and people that they love. They were withdrawing. That we need to look out for this kind of stuff. When you find yourself being drawn into deep darkness, you need to reach out. Reach out. There are people there ready to listen to you. Don't suffer alone. This life can be such a lonely place if you don't reach out. So if you're listening to this program this evening and you're finding that you just can't be bothered with life anymore, it doesn't look like it's worth living, stop that thought. Reach out to family, reach out to friends. There are many organizations who will listen to your problems anonymously. What I find is sometimes when you talk about your problem, even if the person you're talking to cannot solve the problem, just getting it off your chest helps you. Sometimes as you share your problem, the answer, you actually figure out the answer as you're sharing your problem. it is so important to offload. If you don't offload and you keep piling it on, at some point in time, you will have that straw that breaks that camel's back. So please, wherever you find yourself today, remember that there's always hope. It may look desperate because you're carrying everything. Find somebody to share. Find somebody to talk to, and it will help you to break out of that depression. And remember, I keep saying this thing, happiness really is a choice. Today and always, choose happiness. Surround yourself with positivity. Surround yourself with people who encourage. Don't surround yourself with negative people, because negative will always attract negative. Positive will always attract positive. Choose happiness today. We'll catch up again at the next episode. Until then, stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Bye.